Dead Stars by Paz Marquez Benitez. Through the open window, the air steep outdoors passed into his room, quietly enveloping him, stealing into his very thought, Esperanza, Julia, the sorry mess he had made of life, the years to come even now beginning the way down, the crashly lost concreteness, diffused in the formless melancholy, the tranquil murmur of conversation issue from the brick-tiled azotea where Don Julian and Carmen were busy puttering away among the rosebuds. Papa! And will the long table be set? I don't know yet. Alfredo is not very specific, but I understand Esperanza wants it to be the next month. Carmen sighed impatiently. Why is he not a bit more decided? I wonder. He is over 30, is he not? And still a bachelor. Esperanza must be tired waiting. She does not seem to be in much of a hurry either, Don Julian nasally commented, while his rose scissors busily snipped away. How can a woman be in a hurry when the moon does not hurry her? Carmen returned, pinching off a worm with a careful, somewhat absent air. Papa, do you remember how much in love he was? In love? With whom? With Esperanza, of course. He has not had another love affair that I know of. She was with a good-natured contempt. What I mean is that at the beginning, he was enthusiastic flowers, serenades, notes, and things like that. Alfredo remembered that period with a wonder not unmixed with shame. That was less than 4 years ago. He could not understand those months of a great anger that was not of the body nor yet of the mind, a craving that had seized on him one quiet night when the moon was abroad and under the dark shadow of the trees in the plaza. Manwood maid. Was he being cheated by life? Love he seemed to have missed out. Or was the love that others told about a mere fabrication of fervid imagination, an exaggeration of the commonplace, a glorification of insipid monotonies made up his life for, such as made up his love life? Was a love a combination of circumstances or sheer native capacity of soul? In those days, love was, for him, still the internal puzzle, for love, as he knew it, was stranger to love as he divined it might be. Sitting quietly in his room now, he could almost revive the restlessness of those days, the feeling of tumultuous haste, such as he knew so well in his boyhood, when something beautiful was going on somewhere and he was trying to get in there in time to see. Hurry, hurry, or you will miss it. Someone had seemed to urge in his ears. So he had avidly seized on the shadow of love and deluded himself for a long while in the way of humanity from time immemorial. In the meantime, he became very much engaged to Esperanza. Why would men so mismanage their lives? Greed, he thought. Was that ruined so many? Greed, the desire to crowd into a moment all the enjoyment it will hold, to squeeze from the hour all the emotion it will yield. Men commit themselves when but half meaning to do so, sacrificing possible future fullness of ecstasy to the craving of immediate excitement, greed, mortgaging the future, forcing the hand of time or of fate. What do you think happened? Asked Carmen, pursuing her thought. I suppose long-engaged people are like that, warm now, cool tomorrow. I think they are oftener cool than warm. The very fact that an engagement has been allowed to prolong itself argues a certain placidity of temperament, or of affection, on the other part of either or both. Don Julian loved to philosophize. He was talking now with an evident relish in words, his resonant, very nasal voice tuned down to monologue pitch. That face you were speaking of is natural enough for a beginning. Beside that, as I see it, was Alfredo, last traced with escaping you. Carmen laughed aloud at the thought of her brother's perfect physical repose, almost indolence, disturbed in the role suggested by her father's figurative language. A last spurt of hot blood, finished the old man. Few certainly would credit Alfredo Salazar with hot blood. Even his friends had amusedly diagnosed his blood as cool and thin. Sitting incontrovertible evidence, tall and slender, he moved with an indolent ease that verged on grace. Under straight, recalcitrant hair, a thin face with a satisfying breadth of forehead, slow dreamer's eyes, and the astonishing freshness of lips. Indeed, Alfredo Salazar's appearance betokened little of exuberant masculinity, rather a poet with a wayward humor, a fastidious artist with keen, clear brain. He rose and quietly went out of the house. He lingered a moment on the stone steps, then went down the path shaded by immature acacias through the little tarred gate, which he left swinging back and forth, now opening, now closing. On the gravel road bordered along the farther side by madre cacao hedged in tardy lavender bloom, the gravel road narrowed as it slanted up to the house on the hill, whose wide-open porches he could glimpse through the heat-shriveled tamarinds in the Martinez yard. 6 weeks ago that house meant nothing to him, save that it was the Martinez house, rented and occupied by Judge Del Valle and his family. 6 weeks ago, Julia Salas meant nothing to him. He did not even know her name, but now, one evening, he had gone neighboring with Don Julian, a rare enough occurrence since he made it a point to avoid all appearance of currying favor with the judge. This particular evening, however, he had allowed himself to be persuaded. A little mental relaxation now and then is beneficial, the old man had said. Besides, a judge's goodwill, the rest of the thought. It is worth a rising young lawyer's trouble, Don Julian conveyed through a shrug and smile that derided his own worldly wisdom. A young woman had met them at the door. It was evident for the excitement of the judge's children that she was a recent and very welcome arrival. In the characteristic Filipino way, formal introduction had been omitted, the judge limiting himself to a casual, "ya, si conocen," with the consequence that Alfredo heard Miss Del Valle throughout the evening, that it seemed a matter of course. Only when Esperanza chanced to ask him indirectly about those visits did some uneasiness creep into his thoughts of the girl next door. Esperanza had wanted to know if he went straight home after Mass. Alfredo suddenly realized that for the several Sundays now he had not waited to Esperanza to come out of the church as he had been wont to do. He had been eager to go neighboring. He answered that he went home to go work, and because of he was not habitually untruthful, added, "Sometimes I go with the papa to Judge Del Valles." She dropped the topic. Esperanza was not prone to indulge in unprovoked jealousies. She was a believer in the regenerative virtue of institution, and the power to regulate feelings as well as conduct. If a man were married, why, of course, he loved his wife. If he were engaged, he could not possibly love another woman. That half-light told him what he had not admitted openly to himself. That was giving Julia Salas something which he was not free to give. He realized that, yet something that would not be denied, beckoned imperiously, and he followed on. It was so easy to forget up there, away from the prying eyes of the world. So easy and so poignantly sweet. The beloved woman, he is standing close to her, the shadows around enfolding. Up here I find something. He and Julia Salas stood looking out into the quiet night, sensing unwanted intensity, laugh woman-like, asking, "Amusement? No, youth, it's spirit. Are you so old?" And heart's desire. He was becoming a poet, or is there a poet lurking in the heart of every man? "Down there," he had continued, his voice somewhat indistinct, "the road is too broad, too trodden by feet, too barren of mystery. Down there, beyond the ancient tamarinds lay the road, upturned to the stars. In the darkness the fireflies glimmered, while an errant breeze strayed in front somewhere, bringing elusive faraway sounds as the voice in the dream. Mystery, she answered lightly. That is so brief. None, not it some, quickly, not in you. You have known me as few weeks, so the mystery. I could study you all my life and still not find it. So long? I should like to. Those 6 weeks were now so swift, seeming in the memory, yet had they been so deep in the living, so charged with compelling power and sweetness, because neither the past nor the future had relevance of meaning. You live only the present, day by day, live it intensely, with such a willful shutting out of fact as astounded him in his calmer moments. Just before Holy Week, Don Julian invited the judge and his family to spend Sunday afternoon at Tanda, where he had a coconut plantation and a house on the beach. Carmen also came with her four energetic children. She and Doña Adalia spent most of time indoors directing the preparation of the merienda and discussing the likable absurdities of their husbands. How Carmen's Vicente was so absorbed in his farms that he would not even take time off to accompany her on this visit to her father. How Doña Adalia's Dionisio was the most absent-minded of men, sometimes going out without his collar or with unmatched socks. After the merienda, Don Julian sauntered off with the judge to show him what a thriving young coconut looked like. Plenty of leaves, close set, rich green, while the children, convoyed by Julia Salas, found unending entertainment in the rippling sand left by the ebbing tide. They were far down, walking at the edge of the water, indistinctly outlined against the gray of the out-curving beach. Alfredo left his perch on the bamboo ladder of the house and followed. Here were her footsteps, narrow arc. He laughed at himself for his black canvas footwear, which he removed forward and whipped the tuck-up skirt around her straight, slender figure. And the picture was something of eager freedom as of wings poised in flight. The girl had grace, distinction. Her face was not notably pretty, and tossed high up on dry sand. When he came up, she blushed, then smiled with frank pleasure. I hope you are enjoying this, he said with a questioning inflection. Very much. It looks like a home for me, except we do not have such a lively beach. There was a breeze from the water, yet it had a tantalizing charm, all the more compelling because it was an inner quality, an achievement of the spirit. The lure was there, the naturalness of an alert vitality of mind and body, of a thoughtful, sunny temper, of an piquant perverseness which is sauce to charm. The afternoon has seemed very short, hasn't it? Then, this I think is the last time we can visit. The last? Why? Oh, you will be too busy perhaps. He noted an invasive quality in the answer. Do I seem especially industrious to you? If you are, you never look it. It blew the hair away her forehead, not perspiring or breathless, as a busy man ought to be, but always unhurried, too unhurried and calm. She smiled to herself. I wish that were true, he said after a meditative. A man is happier if he is, as you can say, calm and placid, like a carabao in a mud pool. Alfredo Salazar turned to the right where, farther on, the road broadened and entered the heart of the town, heart of Chinese stores sheltered under low-hung roofs, of indolent drugstores and tailor shops, of dingy shoe repairing establishments, and a cluttered goldsmith cubbyhole where a consumptive bent over a magnifying lens. Herds of all brick roof houses with a quaint hand and ball knockers on the door. Heart of grass-grown plaza reposeful with trees, of an ancient church and convento, now circled by swallows gliding in flight as smooth and soft as the afternoon itself. into the quickly dipping twilight. The voice of the biggest of the church bells kept ringing in incense. The church bells kept ringing its insistent summons. Plucking came the devout with their long wax candles. Young women in vivid apparel, older women in the sober black skirts, came to the young men in droves, elbowing each other under the talisay tree near the church door. The gaily decked rice paper lanterns were again on display, while from the windows of the old houses hung colored glass globes, heirlooms from a day when grass-fed wicks floating in coconut oil were the chief lighting device. Soon a double row of lights emerged from the church and uncoiled down the length of the street like a huge jeweled band stud with glittering clusters where the saints' platforms were. Above the measured music rose the untutored voices of the choir, steeped in license in the acrid fumes of burning wax. The sight of Esperanza and her mother sedately pacing behind Our Lady of Sorrows suddenly destroyed the illusion of continuity and broke up those lines of light into component individuals. Esperanza stepped self-consciously, tried to look unaware, and could not. The line moved on. Suddenly, Alfredo's slow blood began to beat violently, irregularly. A girl was coming down the line. A girl was striking and vividly alive. The woman that could cause violent commotion in his heart, yet he had no place in the completed ordering of his life. Her glance of abstracted devotion fell on him and came to a brief stop. The line kept moving on, wending its circuitous route away from the church and then back again, where, according to the old proverb, all the processions end. At last, Our Lady of Sorrows entered the church, and with her the priest and the choir, whose voices now echoed from the arched ceiling. The bells rang the close of the procession. A round orange moon, huge as a winnowing basket, rose lazily into a clear sky, whitening the iron roof and dimming the lanterns at the windows. Along the still densely shadowed street, the young women with their rear guard of maize loitered and, maybe, took the longest way home. Towards the end of the row of Chinese stores, he caught up with Julia Salas. The crowd has dispersed into the side streets, leaving Calle Real to those who live farther out. It was past 8, and Esperanza would be expecting him in a little while, yet the thought did not hurry him as he said, "Good evening," and fell into step with the girl. "I had been thinking all this time that you had gone." "No, my sister asked me to stay until they are ready to go." "Oh, is the judge going?" "Yes." The provincial docket had been cleared, and Judge Del Valle had been assigned to elsewhere as lawyer, and as lover Alfredo had found that out long before. "Mr. Salazar, I wish to congratulate you." Her tone told him that she had learned at last that was inevitable. For what? For your approaching wedding. Some explanation was due her, surely. Yet what could he say that would not offend? "I should have offered congratulations long before. But you know mere visitors are slow about getting the news." He listened not so much for what she said as to nuance her inner voice. He heard nothing to enlighten him except that she had reverted to the formal tones of early acquaintance. No revelation there, simply the old voice, cool, almost detached from personality, flexible and vibrant, suggesting potentialities of song. "Are your weddings interesting to you?" "When they are of friends, yes. Would you come if I asked you?" "When is it going to be?" "May," he replied briefly, after a long pause. "May is the month of happiness, they say." "They say," slowly, indifferently. "Would you come?" "Why not?" "No reason. I'm just asking." "Then you will." "If you will ask me." "Then I asked you." "Then I will be there." The gravel road lay before them. At the road's end of the lighted windows of the house on the hill, there swept over the spirit of Alfredo Salazar a longing so keen that was pain, a wishes that that house were his. At all the bewilderments of the present were not at this woman by his side, where his long-wedded wife, returning with him peace of home. Julia, did you ever have to choose between something you wanted to do and something you have to do? No, I thought maybe you had that experience. Then you could understand a man who was in such a situation. You are fortunate. Is the man sure of what she should do? I don't know. Julieta, perhaps not, but there is a point where a thing escapes us and rushes downward of its own weight, dragging us along. Then it's foolish to ask whether one will or will not, because it no longer depends on him. But then why? Why? Oh, what do I know? Doesn't it interest you? Why must I? I have to say goodbye, Mr. Salazar. We are at the house. Without lifting her eyes, she quietly turned and walked away. He looked attentively at her where she sat on the sofa, appraising and with a kind of aversion which he tried to control. She was one of those fortunate women who have the gift of uniformly acceptable appearance. She never surprised one with unexpected homeliness nor with startling reserves of beauty. At home, in church, on the street, she was always herself, a woman past first bloom, light and clear of complexion, spare of arms and of breast, with a slight convexity to the throat, a woman dressed with self-conscious care, even elegance, a woman distinctly not average. She was pursuing an indignant relation about something or other, something about Callista, their note carrier. Alfredo perceived, so he merely half listened, understanding imperfectly. At a post he drove out to fill in the gap. Well, what of it? She is not married to him. Besides, she should have thought of us. Nanay practically brought her up. We never thought she would turn out bad. What had Callista done? Homely middle-aged Callista. You are very positive about her badness. What do you approve? Of what? What she did? No. Well, he was suddenly impelled by a desire to disturb the unvexed audacity of her mind. All I say is that is not necessarily weak. Why should it be? You talk like an immoral man. I don't know what your ideas were like that. My ideas? The only test I wish to apply to conduct is the test of fairness. I am uninjuring anybody? No, then I am justified in my conscience. I am right, living with a man to whom she is not married. Is that it? It may be wrong, and again, it may be not. She has injured us. She was ungrateful. The trouble with you, Esperanza, is that you are. Why do you get angry? I do not understand you at all. I think I knew why you have been indifferent to me lately. I am not blind or deaf. I see and hear what perhaps some are trying to keep from me. Why don't you speak out frankly before it's too late? You need not think of me or what people will say. Alfredo was suffering as he could not remember ever having suffered before. What people will say, what will they not to say, what don't they say when a long engagement are broken almost on the eve of the wedding? Yes, one tries to be fair according to his lights, but it is hard. One would like to be fair to oneself first, but that is too easy when that's not there. What do you mean? Whatever my shortcomings, and no doubt there are many in your eyes, I have never gone out of my way, of my place, to find a man. Esperanza, desperately in his stumbling words, if you suppose yet how could a mere man would such a plea? If you mean you want to take back your word, if you are tired of, why don't you tell me, are tired of me? The last word had been said. He was not unhappy in his marriage. He felt no rebellion, only the calm of capitulation to what he recognized as irresistible course of circumstance and of character. His life had simply ordered itself, no more struggles, no more stirring up of emotion that get a man nowhere. From his capacity of complete detachment he derived a strange solace, the essential himself, the himself that he had its beginning in the cone of his thought, would, he reflected, always be free and alone. When claims encroached too insistently, as sometimes they did, he retreated into the inner fastness, and from that vantage he saw things and people around him, as remote and alien as incidents that did not matter. At such time did Esperanza feel baffled and helpless. He was gently, even tender, immeasurably far away, beyond her reach. The lights were springing into life on the shore. That was town, a little up, titled town, in nestling in the dark greenness of the groves. The vessel approached the landing quietly, trailing a wake of long golden ripples of the dark water. Peculiar hill inflection came to his ears from the crowd assembled to meet the boat's low, singing cadences, characteristic of Laguna Lake shore speech. From where he stood, he could not distinguish faces, so he had no way of knowing whether the president was there to meet him or not. Then, just then, a voice shouted, "Is the abogado there? Abogado! What abogado? That must be the president," he thought, and went down to the landing. It was a policeman, a tall, pock-marked individual. The presidente had left with Brigada Samoy Tandang, Binday. That noon, for Santa Cruz, Senor Salazar's second letter had arrived late, but the wife had read it and said, "Go and meet the abogado and invite him to our house." Alfredo Salazar courteously declined the invitation. He would sleep on board since the boat would leave at 4 the next morning anyway. So the president had received his first letter. Alfredo did not know because that official had not sent an answer. "Yes," the policeman replied, but he could not write because he but he could not write because we heard that Tandang Binday was in San Antonio, so we went there to find her. San Antonio was up in the hills. Good man, the president. He, Alfredo, must do something for himself. Alfredo, must do something for him. It was not every day that one met such willingness to help. Full the town was. Here and there, a little tienda was still open, its dim lights issuing forlornly through the single window which served as counter. An occasional couple sauntered by the women's chinelas, making scraping sound. From a distance came the shrill voice of children playing games on the street, to be gun perhaps, or hawking chicken. The thought of Julia Salas in the quiet place filled with him a pitying sadness. How would life seem now if he had married Julia Salas? Had he meant anything to her? That unforgettable red and gold afternoon in early April haunted him with a sense of incompleteness, as restless as other unlaid ghosts. She had not married. Why? Faithfulness, he reflected, was not a conscious effort of grateful memory. It was something unvolitional, maybe a recurrent awareness of irreplaceably irrelevant ripples as a cool wind on his forehead, faraway sounds as of voices in a dream. Gently, was it experimentally? He pressed her hand in parting, but his own felt undisturbed and emotionless. Did she still care? The answer to the question hardly interested him. The young moon had set, and from the inviting caught her see one half of a star-studded sky. So that was all over. Why had he obstinately clung to that dream? So all these years, since when? He had been seeing the light of dead stars, long extinguished yet seemingly still in their appointed places in the heavens. An immense sadness as of loss invaded his spirit, a vast homesickness for some immutable refuge of the heart far away her faded gardens bloom again. and where live on the unchanging freshness, the dear dead loves of vanished youth.